morning, everyone. Good night, wherever you are. It's past midnight, but we're glad you're still here with us for Club and Country After the Whistle, the ultimate post-U.S. national team show. Guys, we've got one more. The semifinals lead to the finals. The U.S. national team rolls on, and who else but Clint Dempsey? And this is your show. 401-206-0MLS, Hot-Take Hotline. Send us your text, all of it, and we'll get to it. And actually, let's jump straight to the Hot-Take Hotline. Let's get a little heat to start us off.
This is Matt from Brooklyn. I just wanted to say I'm not afraid of El Tri. Bring on Mexico. Let's dominate Los Ticos. Let's go, baby. Woo!
That's how we get started, guys. That's what we do.
That's what we need at midnight.
That's how I feel inside right now. That was my last tweet. Just woo!
But
USA.
We're not there yet, and Mexico's actually not there yet. We've got Heath Pearce with us, former all-world everything.
I'll take that. Yeah, I guess.
Okay, we'll say most caps here.
Okay.
Right? How many caps do you have?
35.
Oh, you knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was ready for that question.
We've got Arielle Castillo, MLSsoccer.com. She's going to be on her phone all show, but she's allowed to be. And Bobby Warsaw, of course, former MLS draft pick. And just keep texting Arielle because...
Yeah, I'm getting them right now. It's 401-206-MLS, and I'm getting them right to my phone, and I'm judging your takes. So keep sending them in.
So we've obviously got already a little bit of heat from Matt in Brooklyn. Let's start with this game, though, because the U.S. did just win a game, and a lot of people out there on Twitter are saying it's the best performance so far. What's your general thought coming out of this one?
I mean, they won, right? That's the most important thing. Now they're in a position to get to a final. Playing tournaments are two different things, right? You have group stages and knockout stages, and it's very different. They obviously brought in all this experience now to get them to that final. And so while I don't think it was a performance that was life-changing by any means, obviously the bright point for me is Clint Dempsey in this whole thing, right? There was the talk beforehand. It's been the talk, is he going to break these records? But more than just the records, what's his impact and role within the team is kind of what I took out of this.
So this guy, Clint Dempsey, he's obviously just a sub, so no one really knows his name. He comes off the bench. He creates one for Josie, scores one himself to tie Landon Donovan's U.S. national team record. Bobby, Clint Dempsey's pretty good at soccer.
He's very good at soccer, and especially if he's going to do this in this role, it's perfect for him, it's perfect for his skill set, and it's perfect for what the team needs right now.
Clint Dempsey, when you Google him now, comes up the GOAT.
How do people do this? This is impressive.
A little bit of Photoshop and Bobby's blown away.
Oh,
that's why he is so special. Clint Dempsey, he ties Landon Donovan. I mean, we're going to talk, I think, in a minute about if he's the greatest U.S. national team player of all time, but coming off the bench, he looked angry and excited. Josie looked angry and excited.
Josie did look angry, and I do have a special text from Joey in South Texas about Dempsey, and he says, on behalf of Texans everywhere, you're welcome, hashtag Deuce Acero.
Yeah, saw that coming.
Another interesting one that I have in here is from Caruso in Billings, and he says, nag me on the left or in the middle, I say middle, but more importantly, he says Dempsey should still be starting. So what do we think about Dempsey starting versus just being a super sub? You're already shaking your head.
What is it, Bobby? What is it? What's the head shake mean? Fill us in.
It just means he shouldn't be a starter on this team. He messes up the flow and the rhythm of the team when he starts. So let's have other guys who can build that flow, build that tempo, and set it up for when he can come in and change the game at the end. You need to be winning after 90 minutes. So let's set up a game and let's let Clint come in and win it at the end in this role.
So my question here, though, is do you think Clint is going to accept that yet? Especially given his performance tonight, I don't think he's ready to just sort of...
The MVP of tonight was not Clint Dempsey. The MVP of tonight was Bruce Arena.
Hot take.
Also, I think someone else tweeted that out.
Yeah.
Oh, did
That's a
I steal
Gomez.
that?
That was a Hercules Gomez.
Did I steal that?
But
if you're watching,
who was that?
But I think it was a Herc tweet, right?
Was it?
Yeah.
Herc, shout out, man. Thanks for that.
But I agree with you in the sense that I don't know if this permanently his role, but he has to be willing when it makes sense, right? Based on who you're playing against, based on where Clint is and his form. I think he's an important part of this team, but is he willing to accept that role, first of all?
Walk me through this conversation.
Okay.
Bruce Arena walks in a room with Clint Dempsey.
Yeah.
Going into Russia, right?
Okay.
He's made the team.
Yeah.
How does he I mean, how does this go down?
Well, first of all, if he's waiting till they get to Russia to have that conversation, that's probably not the time that you're going to want to say that to Clint, because he's going to need some time to digest it, because he's a competitor, right? You could never, even in his last match, when they sub him out for his career and he gets to clap up the entire stadium, he's probably going to yell at the coach for subbing him off. After they told him beforehand, hey, you're going to play for X amount of minutes, we're going to sub you off and let you get the standing ovation, he's going to get in a fight with somebody.
I was 20 seconds short.
We think Clint was stoked to win this game. Clint was happy to score 2 goals so he gets back in the starting lineup.
Yeah,
that's really what he's happy about, right?
Sure.
But I think what gets misunderstood with Clint, though, is that he is that competitor, right? But I've gotten into plenty of arguments with Clint. I've seen Clint get in arguments with everybody, but it is about winning for him.
That's why we will remember his name.
And it's not always about him. He believes in himself, and he doesn't like the criticisms all the time, because usually in his head he's already yelled at himself 10 times harder than anybody else does. So like hearing it from somebody else can be hard, or being subbed off or whatever, right? Maybe there's some sort of mental thing going on with that with him. But he does care about the team, and I do think he'll put the team first if his role is to be a super sub or a sub in some capacity, or primarily as a sub. I think he'll bring that element to the team that it's exactly what they need, right?
Let's see what some fans think. 401-206-0MLS. Let's go to the hotline.
So are the old guys ever going to get replaced? Timmy was rad. Clint was on fire. I mean, let's just take that, 2002 World Cup team to the next 18 qualifiers. It was awesome. All right.
Was he serious or sarcastic?
I mean, outside of Pulisic, you're not really adding many names right now.
I don't see Tim Howard going anywhere. I think that game would have been a lot worse if he didn't make all those saves, and I don't want him to go anywhere. I don't see anyone ready to step up.
Hamid hasn't shown that. For Bruce Arena, guys, we've been on this show for a couple games, and we've said that it looks disjointed. They don't look energetic. They don't look passionate. Did it look? What did Bruce do tonight? Did it look better?
It definitely looked better. I actually doubt that Bruce said or did much. It seemed to me that the players, they finally took it to heart. And it's a little thing, like when you watch Michael Bradley play a ball to a center back, the way he gets it off that center back just shows, and that gets infectious to the rest of the team. You could see that the captain had taken it to heart, and when he does a little thing, like a little 5-yard sprint, go get the ball, every other player says, oh dang, I got to do that same thing.
But you're also bringing players, like you bring in the 6 new guys, right? Guys that have experience, that know how to manage these tournaments, right? And you're having to implement them into a team that's kind of trying to find this sort of rhythm, and it's been mostly disjointed. And now those players are stepping back into those leadership roles, like you said, Michael Bradley going back and getting the ball off the feet, having that urgency, and having that kind of clear conviction as to how they're going to go about getting a result, and that's based on the experience they had on the field tonight. I think that was a little bit different, and obviously you can break down as to what it was, whether it was Bruce or what.
It's also important to note, too, just the stakes of the game matter. We can say all the right things as players. Yeah, we know we want to beat Martinique. We know we want to beat El Salvador. But really your mind only fully checks in when the stakes are raised. And you can't usually say it out loud, but as players you know it, you feel it. So I think it just naturally comes with the harder opponent and the bigger game.
Okay, well, let me interrupt with the text. And we're talking about a mix of experience and newer guys. So I want to ask all of you what you think of this. This is from Sean in St. Louis. Is there a midfield where Fabjo, Nagbe, Pulisic, and Bradley can all play together? And he says, it seems to me that those 4 could be lights out together if organized properly. How do you guys think that would work out?
Why not? I mean, aside from Fabjo, where he fits into that whole thing, I mean, if you can have Pulisic, Nagbe, and Bradley together, it's a very attack-heavy lineup there. But I think if Nagbe can be the one that's kind of playing between the lines, and then Pulisic has a little bit less responsibility defensively, but Fabjo, whether you put him as a wing back or you put him as an outside back or an outside midfielder,
so
he's proven to.
How much does Nagbe?
I don't think he fits into that, actually.
Yeah, how much does Nagbe?
Fabian Johnson?
Yeah, just the style of play. The other 3 are pass and move and get it, and Fabjo just doesn't seem to have that style to his game.
What about
I think
Nagbe,
he does, though.
Yeah, I want to ask you all about Nagbe, especially given tonight's performance. There are a lot of complaining on text and on Twitter, sort of about what happens when he finally gets that ball in front of the goal, and like what happens. It's a little frustrating.
Wait, can I say I was right for 30 seconds here? Sorry, 10 seconds. We came on before, and you were like, what is the last pass matter? Final pass. Stop saying this cliche. What does it matter? And no one scored a goal until Clint Dempsey came on and made the last pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once the game opens up, it's a totally different... The game is played in different stages, right? That final stage, just like a chess match, is a different sport almost. You play a certain game, you play a different sport for 60, 65 minutes, and then you let someone come on once a game opens up, once players lose focus. Clint couldn't have done this in the first 65 minutes, right? It doesn't change what I said. You don't want that kind of guy for the first 65, 70 minutes. At the end, it's a different game, and you go to a different style.
But you're still looking at moments here where Nagbe can break down those lines on the dribble, right? Get into those pockets, know what's around him, and know that he can now push those lines. And obviously, the play we just saw, nothing happens out of that, but you can see how he's stretching those back lines further and further back, and he's comfortable in those pockets. And I think that's kind of the frustration that you get with Nagbe, right? Is you see these moments of brilliance and everybody just wants it all the time. It's the same thing you had with Josie. You see this moment of brilliance where he holds a guy up and then he throws that guy on the ground and then walks over him and then puts it in the top corner. You're like, just do that. Yeah. And the same thing with Nagbe, right? You see him get out of these tight spaces and you're like, just do that. And it's just, I don't know if our expectations are wrong or if that consistency or if it's the people around them that allow them that freedom to do those things. But I'd be interested to see if, we've all been waiting for Nagbe to kind of do that over and over again.
What position? Because this was a winger. We didn't think it would be. He was a true winger or whatever.
If Nagbe's on the wing, he's always going to drift inside. He's always going to drift into pockets, and I think that's a strength that he'll be able to have. You'll never see him painting the lines on the wing, just like sitting out there. I think he'll always find those pockets, and everything will turn into a diamond if he's on the field, even if he's on the wing in some sort of sense. I don't know if it's an actual diamond, but he'll always drift inside, and I think
some rhombus of some sort.
It's a shape, but no matter what, he's not going to sit out wide because I don't think he's as effective as when he can come inside, maybe from the wings to open up those pockets.
Caleb Porter seemed to find the best of Nagbe. Do we think Bruce is figuring it out?
I just think Nagbe has a lot of potential, and like Heath was saying, it's just frustrating both for club and country because you see what could happen and it doesn't. And it must be really frustrating at the Timbers level.
Both for club and country, I like what you did there.
Yeah. Taking it back to the midfield, I want to ask you all, we have a text from Ruben in Tampa. Kellen Costa, another big topic tonight. Does Kellen Costa's performance persuade Arena to keep starting him? And how about a spot for Russia?
Seems like
spot for Russia for sure.
It seems likely.
He's on the roster for sure.
This is a little bit our fault too. I think that Mexico game, and we slotted him in as a definite starter at that 8 spot, and the body of evidence just wasn't big enough. He's clearly a good player. And we just jumped the gun a little bit off of one game. We just need to take it one step at a time. A good game, a bad game. Let the body of evidence build before we know what level we can.
He also followed that up with the Ghana game, which was really good. I know it was a friendly, but yes.
But you're talking about baseline right now, right? Like they're throwing him into the fire, right? And my criticism was also of Arielle in Mexico and kind of what his performance has been. And then in this tournament, I've started to see what those flashes that everybody's been talking about, that speed, that ability to get behind a back line. But Acosta, he's comfortable on the field right now. Imagine him in 12 months' time, right? So you're putting a young guy who has club-level experience, and now he's getting international experience in big moments, and while he might not be shining, he's also not sinking in any way. He's not showing I don't deserve to be here.
What's the thought process in this? You've been in this exact position. You know you're in the running. How do you balance, for a guy like Kellen Costa, your focus for your club team, but also, dang, I need to get better at X, Y, and Z to prove myself for the national team?
Well, I think the first thing with him was just finding what his position was going to be, right? So you're seeing it on both sides. He'd been an outside back at times, and he'd been moved around.
Which made you so excited.
Yeah, I was really excited about that. But he'd been moved around. Now you found him in his position for club and for country, and that I think is really important for his development because he can actually take those things that say Bruce is telling him go do this, or he's able to work on those things on a daily basis, as opposed to playing it as an outside back and then being this utility guy that's always moving around.
When we watch these clips, I want to see Kellen go get the ball more. I want to say, listen, center back, I know you can play, but it's my team, my game, give me the rock. But the problem is on FC Dallas, Matt Hedges is so good at playing out of the back, but a lot of times Kellen needs to support the forward for the next pass. So it's a little hard for him to develop and Bruce all tournament was on him. Get the ball, Kellen, dictate the game. So I worry how he improves at Dallas at that one deficiency for the national team when it doesn't fit Dallas' system.
So Kellen's going to Russia, yes, and yes.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. I think he's just seemed a little bit hesitant, a little bit nervous this tournament for sure, maybe for some of the reasons you said. So if he can sort of get after it a little bit more.
So then Dax, Russia?
Fantastic. He did what he needed to do in this game to show why he deserves a spot on this team. Complete passes, finish out a game, get the points. This game for me was his yes, he goes.
Is Dax studying Russian for you or no?
I'm a Dax fan. I wish I had seen more of him in this tournament so far, so maybe in the final.
I'm saying if you base it on the current player pool, right, of what you have available
for
right
23.
now. For 23,
Yeah.
yes. But there are other guys out there.
Give us some names.
Jermaine, there's Williams.
Oh, you're going to open that can of
I'm
worms.
just saying.
Here come the text. We're about to get flooded with text
everything
for
was
that
all
one.
Michael Bradley going into last World Cup, right? And I know this is 4 years later. Everybody's 4 years older. But who was the guy that really ran that midfield in the last World Cup?
Jermaine.
There's going to be
4
a lot of
years
texts
ago.
that say for better or for
Well,
worse.
I have a text about Michael Bradley if we're going to go there for sure. So Aaron from Denver says, tell me, without mentioning intangibles, why Michael Bradley is an automatic starter for big games.
Because he's the guy that goes, it's not intangible. He physically goes to get the ball in tough spots. Because the game gets tough. No matter what we say, every game gets really hard, and all 11 players in the field get a sense of nervousness, get a sense of, oh crap, I don't want to mess up. Michael Bradley always works through that. And you might call it intangible, but it's a physical thing.
He also
where
scored a
literally-
35-yard chip in the Azteca. One of the greatest goals ever in a big game.
But he is a gamer. When you see Michael Bradley have a bad game, it's
Yeah.
because something's off, right? His touch lets him down, or his passing lets him down. But it's not
He's
a moment
always
like you said where
emotionally
it's
there.
like makes a mistake and then a second and then third mistake and then he just disappears. He'll still go keep making those mistakes over and over and over again for that belief in himself, and it's just an off day, right? Which is like different than other guys who you see 1-2 mistakes, and then all of a sudden they're hiding behind a guy and they're harder to find and they don't want to get involved in things because they're a little bit shook. Michael Bradley doesn't seem to have that fear factor in his head that allows him to now take himself out of games.
Which, by the way, we talked about with Lehigh last game, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing. Lehigh made the big mistake, came back, played hard, played strong. But I would like to round back around to Dax Riccardi here, because we've been sitting on this set for 2 weeks, and everyone's been like, well, Dax isn't playing because he's already in Russia. You think that there's a chance in the next 12 months that someone else will come from outside?
But why would you not be playing in this tournament though?
Right.
And be in Russia? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like Dax has 50 caps and you're like, we know everything. Of course, he gives you exactly what you think he's going to give you. There's no unpredictability.
Right.
That is the Kyle Beckerman model of just like, you know what you're going to get. You know where his weaknesses are, you know where his strengths are, and you know that he can fit into a team and do exactly what you ask him to do because you're going to put that within the parameters of his capabilities, right? You know that like it's not going to be this one day and something else the next day. That's what you get from Dax. But I don't understand the argument of him not playing because you want those guys on the field no matter what. This might be a tournament where they know they're going to get to a final, they're confident they get to the final, but if you're Dax and you're in his mind thinking, I want to play every minute to prove myself.
Right, but he's
This
not
is
playing
role.
with Bradley.
This was more important for him than any start he had in the tournament.
show that he could come off the
These
bench.
9 minutes or whatever he put in tonight were more important than any of his starts because his role is not. I'm not even sure if Michael Bradley gets hurt at the World Cup that Dax would start. It's not his role. You need a guy who is a good personality in the culture and
Wait,
a guy
so
who
then
can
who
come
would
in and
start?
clean out
Yeah,
the
who
game.
would start behind?
Maybe Kellen, maybe Nagby,
So,
maybe
Kellen-
Jeff Cameron. Who knows? But I don't think that Bruce has the idea that Dax would start in any situation either way.
Well, okay, this narrative has now completely changed. 401-206-0MLS. If you want to get involved, you can yell at Heath, you could yell at Bobby, you can yell at Arielle,
We're
you
just
can't
saying
yell
nice
at
things.
me.
Why can't
Just
people
nice
say
things.
things?
Can I say something about that though?
Can we go to the hotline first? No, you can
Go
say
for it,
something
please.
first.
No. I'll come back to it.
Let's go to a call.
What up? All the way from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm just wondering, what position do you think best fits Christian Pulisic's style of play? And when we integrate him into the lineup for possibly World Cup 2018 in Russia, what other player will be most directly affected by his integration into the everyday lineup?
It's a classic 1250 caller. Right?
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Thanks for
guys.
staying up with us. You want to say something? Let's then go and talk about this full midfield for the best team. But where'd you want to go?
Just talking about how you build a 23-man
Yeah.
roster for a World Cup, right? How depth plays into all that, how versatility plays into all that. With the reason you talked about Costa, we talked about Jeff Cameron, like guys like that who can play
Fabian
3-4
Johnson.
position. Fabian Johnson, guys like that he can play center midfield, he can play outside back, he can play on the wing, things like that. Guys who can move around.
Sometimes
allows
when
you
you
to
play him at outside back, he's on the wing.
Yeah.
Really don't know?
Sometimes he's higher than the striker, sometimes he's behind the back line, those types of things. But no, and seriousness, that versatility plays a role, right? And so when you start to look at a guy, just to finish my thought on Dax, it's like, is he too one-dimensional? Can you actually find, if you're saying, if he's not going to be the sub-in, can you actually rely on somebody to step in and
Can
do
you
that
bring a
role?
super
You put that,
defensive
you roll the
player.
dice on saying Bradley's going to be fit, and if you don't, you have somebody else who can step into that position who might be better at something else, but do that job at a World Cup or at an international level.
So You're talking about Dax. We talked about Kellen Costa. Pulisic comes into this team. We already know that. That's unquestionable.
Because he's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, obviously. We have a great Pennsylvania back here celebrating 50 years. Does Nagbe then have to go to the bench? I mean, is there any chance Nagbe's also starting in that team? Does Kellen go to the bench? How does this midfield change, as the caller was asking, with Christian Pulisic in the team?
It's a great question, and I think it's really fun to think about because there's no definitive answer. There's multiple things we can do because Pulisic has multiple skills and has a big skill set, but also because we have other players that can complement him. So you're probably looking for a specific answer, but I don't think there is one. I think he might be the second striker behind a Josie or Bobby Wood. He might be a winger, and he might be at the tip of a three-man midfield.
I don't know. I like Nagbe on the field with Pulisic all the time because those two guys bring something different than we've had in a very long time, right? And when you have the two of them, you can have Nagbe drift in and out of moments of the game, and he's not going to be the only guy you have, right? The only threat. Where if you neutralize that, you've changed the way that we're going to have to play.
Guys,
when you have Pulisic on, it's the same thing.
It's not just also style or technique. It's a statement of intent from Bruce. To me, whether he plays Nagbe or not, is the mindset that Bruce takes into a game. If Nagbe's on the field, it's a proactive, we want to control the ball. But if he's not on the field, a la what we saw in Mexico, it's a little more reactive of a game. So it's hard to say what Bruce is going to do in a World Cup. But to me, Nagbe, more than any other player on this team, shows what Bruce is thinking going into a match.
We know Bruce has been, I don't know that stubborn's the word I'd use, but stubborn's the word I'm going to use in the past.
Sounds about right.
Do we think we're looking at a Bruce who's going to change things up more? Like bring different teams to the World Cup so he can change it up for each matchup, or is he going to walk in and go like 4-4-2 and I'm done?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen a willingness from him to experiment just in this tournament. I mean, this tournament has been defined by Bruce experimenting. We haven't seen the same starters. We've seen almost like an entire turnover in roster, in lineup from game to game. So I think right now he's obviously not being stubborn. I don't know what's going to happen when it comes to the actual World Cup, but he's clearly open to looking at new guys. And actually, that helps me pivot to another text.
That's nicely done.
Yeah, which is from Roddy in Northern Virginia. And this is, hi, Roddy. This is going along with our conversation. So this is stock up and down. And he's asking who did not help their case for getting a spot on the team for Russia.
I don't want to throw anyone out there, but I'll ask you guys a couple questions. Matt Beasler, Graham Zusi along that back line, Jorge Villafana. These are all names. I think Tim Howard obviously stock up. Where did they stand for you in terms of performance over the tournament and especially tonight?
I think Villafana has shown enough to stay in consideration, right? I don't think he's done enough to say he is the lockdown left back.
You're the first
right
person
now.
that I've heard in the last 4 months that he said he's not definitely going to Russia and he's not the definitive number one.
But that's only because this is an existential crisis in the game globally. It's just like a left back has a few. Believe me, I rode that train for a while, and I would still ride it if they allowed me to. But like, it's the whole we need a left back. Every team in the world, we need a left back. You're like, no, you have 3 of them. Like, yeah, but we need a left back. and that's the way it is. And he's performed admirably, and I think that he's showing some of his weaknesses defensively and positioning-wise when games get a little more tough or he's forced to make split-second decisions. We've seen that same with Zusi down in Panama, having to make real tight decisions or quick decisions in tight spaces. Those are the things you get punished for at the next level, right? And that's what happens in the World Cup. So those are the few red flags for me. Now, looking at this tournament, I think Zusi's been good. I think Villafana's been good. And I think Beasler tonight was really good. He didn't show any real mistakes. He was solid on the ball. And so I have no complaints in terms of tonight and looking forward. They've all kind of stock went up, especially with the stakes of this game. They performed in the highest kind of stakes game that we've had so far in this tournament.
I totally agree. I think there was a lot of smack talking on Beasler beforehand, but I thought he acquitted himself perfectly during this game. We didn't talk about him a lot because he did his job, and especially in the second half, I thought he proved himself pretty well. And for me, it's hard to imagine Zusi not making the cut. It just seems
He made one really bad touch, and that was while they were doing a sideline segment about how good he's been and how he's working his way in. Life's not always easy for us personalities.
But can you transition a guy like that to right back in 1 year to accept the role and really learn the responsibilities of, say, another player who's played right back for that long and knows those scenarios to be in?
You might be right, but who is it? Who is that right back whose spot he's taking?
DeAndre Yedlin.
Well, yeah, Yedlin's a starter. If we're going to make one prediction, it might be that Yedlin's a starter at right back.
Wait.
So Zusi's a backup.
But this, again, goes to the depth issue of, Fabian Johansson.
You guys, hang on 1 second because we have 2 superstar callers right now.
Okay.
You guys are all superstars, but Rob Stone and Alexi Lalas.
Yay!
Hi, guys.
Those are the superstars.
Hey, we're really just calling to let Arielle know that we are 90 minutes away from penalty kicks between Jamaica and Mexico.
I'm so excited. Rob, I want you to tweet that all the time because you got proven wrong. So maybe that's how we'll stay away from penalties going forward.
We'll do whatever it takes to get us home. Hey, you got? Oh, is that a picture of me? Wow. By the way, I should be focusing on the road. Instead, Alexi is holding the phone and watching it, and I'm talking into my phone.
You are a good-looking gentleman.
I am. They cleaned me up good.
You're good-looking. Who is that on the left hand? Who's the guy with the goatee? What's his name? And long dark hair.
Quick, cut. Take camera one. Go to the left. Oh,
Is that me? Is that a goatee? I've been trying to grow a beard for years, but
It's
it just
almost
grows
a beard.
thicker into the goatee. Starts with a dream.
Alexi, how are you going to offend goatees?
For the best-looking human beings, man or woman, that I've ever seen.
To be
Sweet
fair,
mother of God, you're good-looking.
that's a great compliment. I'm surprised you allowed this to be a goatee because you actually,
perfected
you
it.
perfected that look, and to allow me to be in that realm, I'll take that. Thank you.
Believe me,
Alexi.
if you and I were out in 1994. It would be no contest. I'd be going home alone every single time next to that. You look great. And you're talking. What were you guys talking about before we?
I think we forgot.
We were going to talk about soccer at some point, so we can ask you guys what you thought about this game, but we're also talking about this team, where it stands, who's stock up and down heading to Russia.
Yeah, I think we got off there talking about how I think everybody pretty much believes that this was, on a whole, a good performance, a positive performance. I think more than any game this tournament, everybody's leaving saying, hey, that was what we want to see individually and collectively, the posture that they had through the game, the possession that they had. I'm kind of, at one point during the game, I turned to the folks on the panel, and we were obviously not on air, and I said, I'm not a grouchy guy every once in a while, and I have a tendency at times to be critical, but I tell you what, Darlington Nagbe, for me, had a phenomenal tournament. And I know people yell because he doesn't shoot the ball or he doesn't take as many chances that they want, but
Amen.
Having somebody who doesn't lose the ball is pretty impressive going forward.
Rob, is there anyone who locked themselves in tonight over the course of this tournament or can potentially do it on Wednesday night for you?
Well, I think it's more about affirmation of the big guns that he called in that, look, it's a no-brainer that Howard's our number one, right? I mean, he makes saves when he's been sitting around for 45 to 55 minutes doing nothing. Guys, though, that we haven't talked a lot about, I tell you what, I think Arielle and Dax McCarty have really gotten themselves in. Now, I'm not talking the 11 conversation, but I'm talking the 23-man conversation. I just get the sense that Bruce trusts them and he likes them around and he brings positive things to the club. If you're looking for those, those proverbial outsiders, again, I encourage you to keep up that lower third graphic with the handsome guy up there. You're doing a bang up job on production. And one of the other big takeaways for this one is maybe the biggest acquisition Bruce Arena might have made this tournament is somehow convincing Clint Dempsey that he can be a super sub, that it doesn't have to be a guy who gets the start and goes 60 to 80 minutes, that Clint Dempsey can be a factor off the bench. I'm just saying. I'm telling you.
I'm with you, Rob.
But Rob, do you think
Preach.
that's Clint saying, I'm going to show you I should be in the 11, or him accepting that role?
You're damn right that's what he's saying.
It's the first part.
So immediately after he scored that goal, he's not happy about not starting.
Yeah. But in the end, Bruce Arena's the winner because he's saying, I got you. Look what you did coming off the bench, an assist and then a goal. You know you can do it. And you know what? If you keep that fire in him, you get that anger in him that every time he comes on the field, he's going to prove something to you. Yeah, perfect. You won, Bruce Arena.
You can't go to that well too many times. All right, so Rob Stone, and guys back in the studio, you start him against, if it is Mexico, you start him against Mexico?
Wait, Alexi, are you telling us it's 100% Mexico?
Yeah, it's going to be Mexico.
CONCACAF. We've known this for months. It's going to be Mexico versus U.S. I don't even know why we played the games. We knew this was going to happen.
So we could see some biting, that's why. So we could get you guys to say nipple.
Yeah. That's why we play the whole game. That's why we play the tournament. Let's leave you with one last question, and then we'll debate it here. Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan. Who's the greatest player in U.S. national team history?
Ooh.
Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
Did we just
I know.
Is
I
Freddie
agree
Adu not
too.
an option?
two Landons?
Is there where? Yeah, where's the Freddie Adu box? I'm still going. Look, Clint did it in about 20 less games than Landon, and his career is still going.
As I've always said, if I need somebody and I can only pick one of the other for a World Cup game, I'm going to pick Landon Donovan. But if I need somebody in a bar fight, I'm picking Deuce all day long.
Well, you guys might end up in one of these because it sounds like Rob's driving you to God knows where. And Alexi on GPS, I don't have much confidence in. Thanks so much for calling in, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, anytime we're just passing by LAX, we love you. Go Club and Country.
Thanks, guys.
Alexi Lyles and Rob Stone, our two biggest fans. We literally do this show just so that they can watch. So you guys now, Dempsey, Donovan. I mean, I think the conversation's just down to them. Obviously, Eddie
I can't
Pope's,
pick Nagby.
Eddie Pope's the greatest player in soccer.
You guys, they're
history.
not letting me pick Nagby. What is this about?
No Nagby, no Sebastian Lletget, Landon, and Clint. You can start as Heath.
This is just such a
The
difficult
emoji movie
question.
over
Can
here.
I parse this question first? In training, who was better? Day in and day out, when you train with them at national team camps, was there one that you said, oh, now that I see him every single day in all of these drills, he is the superior one?
Well parsed, Bobby.
Thanks.
I mean, Clint was just the one in training that once he got going, he wanted to beat everybody and anybody, right? It was just, there was a competitive. Landon did his without having to have that chip on his shoulder, right? Landon was just very, very good. He was good every day in training. He worked hard. You never saw, neither of them get to this level by being like, I'm going to take today off. You know what I mean? Like they're at another tier of what they did. So
one might say anger.
yeah. And so for Clint was just very much that like me against you, let's do this type of thing. And Landon was just and two very different types of players, by the way. But I'm going with Landon just in terms of his impact overall. I don't know why, but because I.
So you're taking off field as well in your thing.
No,
Well,
it's
you said
just
impact on the game.
Yeah, impact on the game, just in general, what he did, how he impacted not just big moments, but his ability to, more of a two-way type of guy. But Clint was also a winger for quite a while too.
As a fan, Arielle, obviously neither of us played in training with these players.
Right. I'm going to go probably with Landon for a lot of the reasons that Heath pointed out. It's that it's not always about flash with him. He's a team player. As a fan, I'm psychologically drawn more to someone like Clint with a chip on his shoulder and really comes out, and whenever he does something, you just get super excited. So it's tough, but I'm going to say my heart says Clint, but my head probably says Landon.
I just really want a little side
He's never going to
tangent.
answer this question. I knew.
Will you answer the question though?
Why do we always use the goat emoji? It's just overused, guys. Let's chill out with the
What
goat
do you have
emoji on
against
everything.
goats?
Nothing. I just think it's overused in sports.
Okay, but what's the answer to the question?
Landon.
But I will say that what Alexi said, when you want that big moment, I remember playing in qualifiers with Landon. I remember thinking, like, I just want this guy to do what he normally does. And he disappears. But he shows up in the bigger moments that you need him, And that I thought was, like, always something that was frustrating. Because, again, this is like the Nagby conversation of just, like, just do that.
Yeah.
And, like, when it doesn't happen, you're like, but you're the best player we have. Like, why don't you just keep doing what that is, that makes you so special? And then they come up with that big moment that we've seen, moments that we'll never forget in our history that Landon came up with, individual moments, whether it's right place at the right time or scoring a big goal or creating something out of nothing. And that's why I think I put him just above Clint.
Landon will be on the call Wednesday night, July 26th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, FS1 and Univision for United States against Jamaica or Mexico. Maybe a third team will jump in there, and they'll have a shot at it. Clint Dempsey has a chance to break that record, tied right now. Let me ask you one last part of this. If Clint Dempsey comes off the bench and scores 3 goals at the 2018 World Cup and the U.S. goes to a semifinal, like if Clint Dempsey has a huge moment at the next World Cup, will that...
Are you saying the semifinal thing, or are we just saying a huge tournament?
If the U.S. has a tournament that we will remember,
Okay.
whether it's quarterfinal, whatever it is, maybe it's round of 16, but they lose to the winner and they play well, and Clint Dempsey is a big part of that, scoring big goals, will that catapult him? Or is Landon Donovan where he is because of who he was as a player and who Clint is as a player?
Two separate questions. Who's the better player and who had a better career? I don't think it changes the fact that Landon was the better overall player in his entire skill set. If Clint leads us to a World Cup semifinal, he may then take the mantle as the best career of an American player.
But I also think I think Clint had a better career than Landon in general, just the path that he took to his career, right? Which was just a little bit of a different route than Landon's in terms of overall career against the competition and how he did it. I would say Clint had a better career. But I would say Landon is a better player, right? I think
the guy who came out of college and went to Europe thinks the guy who came out of college played in MLS and then went to Europe.
Yeah, no, it's not so much that. It's just that, like, Clint did always do things kind of in an unorthodox way and constantly kind of, like, chipped away at what he wanted to do to constantly prove that he was capable of playing against the best players in the world. And I think there's a respect for that because he did it and he was actually successful during his time, or at least a large part of his time when he was abroad, and then also when he's come back now. He didn't just come back and do nothing either, you know. He came to Seattle and has done fantastically. So
yeah, take that, Juventus. Do you have any more text?
Yeah, let's go rapid fire through some text. I think they're both great, and I think Clint deserves a statue or shrine if he does that, for sure. Okay, so really rapid fire. Goalkeeping situation. Jeff in LA says, why look any further, parentheses, ahem, Guzan. Rude, but that's okay. For another keeper between now and 2018 when Tim Howard is playing with that level of confidence and still at a very high level.
Because he's 38?
Yeah.
How's your body feeling?
Oh, I'm great. I'm waiting for a call.
I know,
right?
I'm way younger than that, and I'm like,
Are you calling me?
Are you better than Jorge Villafana?
Way longer than that.
Sorry. Are you better than Jorge Villafana right now?
I made Jorge Villafana at Chivas USA.
Well, I have to say,
Yeah. I worked with him daily, or yelled at him at least, that like had some sort of contribution. So.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Let's be real. Like, goalkeepers have a longer career, you know.
Howard's playing fine right now.
Yeah, he's playing great. I mean,
that
game
is the answer to that question.
The game could have been
but
a
not
lot
in the next
worse
12
without
months.
Tim
But
Howard.
my bigger issue is, like, I think for the next 12 months, he's not going to age significantly to where you're just like, okay.
probably
My question
age
is,
12
what
months.
happens after that,
Yeah.
right? So you've got Guzan, and then who is it?
So I'm a fan. I was at the U.S. training camp for 2 weeks in Nashville. I'm a fan of Bill Hamid. I think he hasn't gotten enough minutes really yet, so I don't know how he would do in a super high-pressure situation.
But Bill Hamid's not new, and neither is Sean Johnson. These were the guys that we expected to do what Guzan did, which was just climb
Not
to a
new,
level.
but still young for goalkeeper.
Still young, but
Bill Hamid is still young.
but, yeah.
Sean Johnson, I'm not saying he's a U.S.
Still a
national
wild
team
card
goalkeeper.
of a guy who hasn't even been in this camp is Tim Melia. I don't know why he hasn't gotten a look this time around. But
Ethan Horvath, he plays in Europe, so Europe is always good, right?
That would.
Well, on that note, on a high point, we could talk about this all night. We could debate Landon and Clint and Pulisic and everything else, but they just don't let me do that. So the Gold Cup final, we will be back for USA versus Jamaica and Mexico, Fox Sports 1 and Univision, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday night, and then we'll be right here. Rob Stone and Alexi Lalas will be watching. Will you be watching? You should. Call all week. You can text all week, and we'll get that. And, of course, you can watch Mexico-Jamaica tomorrow night. To Heath, Bobby, and Arielle, thanks so much for joining us. From me and Abner, have a good night.